Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Knicks Daily here. Today we're going to be discussing Landry Shamet. Currently the Knicks have two roster spots. They've got the second round exception, which is for 1.27 million. So they're more than likely going to use that on either James Najee or Mohamed Diawara. And then they've got the vets minimum, which is 2.29 million. Gershon Yabusele took a slight pay cut so that the Knicks could have a little bit more flexibility. And in terms of the current state of the roster, for me personally, I'd prefer the Knicks to use that last spot on a wing or slash forward. Like I know Landry Shamet can play the three, but personally, I'd want to bring in a guy who's like 6'9", 6'10", just to have some extra size. But I don't know if the Knicks are actually going to do that because from what I'm seeing, it could be Landry Shamet. It could even be a guy like Alec Burks who shot the three, but 42% with the Heat. But with Jordan Clarkson coming in, it just doesn't make too much sense to bring in another guard. It's got to be somebody who can stretch the floor and can defend. And from what we saw from Shamet last season, he had a great training camp up until his injury. In the regular season, he got up about 3.1 at the top of my head threes a game, and he shot it at 39%. And then in the playoffs, specifically against the Pacers, Shamet came in and was energized and played exceptionally well. It would give continued chemistry. That's something that we also need to take into consideration. If the Knicks bring back Shamet, well, all of a sudden, he's already been here. So he's played with these guys. He knows exactly what they're trying to do, and that's only going to help Mike Brown, who is taking over for Thibodeau. Precious Achiuwa is another interesting name. For the last month plus, it was reported that he's unlikely to return to the Knicks, so that's why we're not really going to talk much about him. But I think Precious it might just be me, but I think Precious would be literally perfect for this team. Him and Yabusele. You have guys that can play the five, can play the four. Size is so important in the NBA, and it seems like that's the one thing that the Knicks are lacking outside, of course, of like Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns. And they did bring in Yabusele, who certainly gives them a lengthy wing. I think Precious would be good here, but he's unlikely to return. That's fine. So I think Landry Shamet, to me, would be a great piece to be able to bring back. And Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report did say that, quote, unless the Knicks land a bigger name, perhaps Chris Paul, Shamet could round out the bench again this season, end quote. So it's looking like Landry Shamet is an actual possibility to be able to come back to the Knicks. He also said Shamet had to fight his way back to the NBA through the G League after an injury during training camp. He ended up playing 50 games for the Knicks, shooting 39.7% from three-point range on 3.1 attempts in 15.2 minutes per game. The 28-year-old didn't get as many attempts in the postseason, 1.4, but his role grew in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers as New York needed help spacing the floor. I don't think it's going to happen personally. There's a ton of names to look out for, like Bradley Beal and Ben Simmons and Chris Boucher and Thomas Bryant, like DeAnthony Melton. There's a lot of guys that I think the Knicks would prefer than to bring back Shamet. But I don't think at all it would be a bad piece to be able to have him return, just given the fact that he can defend and he can shoot so well, and he was already here. So that's pretty much all I got in terms of Landry Shamet. The Knicks do play Friday night in the Summer League. There's going to be a couple of names to watch out for. Of course, Mohamed Diawara, James Najee, the rookies, all four of them that we drafted last season. It should be fun. The Summer League was pretty exciting last year. We got to see Tyler Kolek hit a couple of clutch shots. He did have that big game winner, of course, against the San Antonio Spurs, so I'm excited about it. But of course, I'd be lying if I said that I'm not just ready to get into next season for the Knicks. You look at when I started Knicks Daily, it was at the end of the season before we got Jalen Brunson in the offseason, so of course the Knicks were like the 10th seed in the East, and they had Julius Randle and Quentin Grimes and Mayo Quickly and Mitchell Robinson. It was an interesting team. RJ Barrett obviously was on that as well. And then they bring in Brunson, they bring in Isaiah Hartenstein, and they also bring in Dante DiVincenzo. And the Knicks were the best defensive team. They also traded for OG, of course, at the trade deadline during that season. So the Knicks just continue to make good move after good move. And then last year they get Karl-Anthony Towns. So they end up flipping Julius Randle and Dante, who they got in free agency, in a first-round pick for Cat. And then we're at the point right now where the Knicks haven't made any big-time trades outside of Mikal Bridges. They did do that as well in the offseason. So a ton of pieces moved. And although I think the Knicks have a higher ceiling with their current roster, I think the floor got a lot lower just because of how the team struggled defensively. So that's why it's really good that they went out and they got Yabusele. And preferably, you'd want somebody who can play good defense with that final second round, of course, exception, or of course that vets minimum. So that's going to be what the Knicks are looking at. And Diawara and Najee, I'm not too familiar with his defense. I know he can protect the rim. He's got a massive standing reach. Diawara is a good defender, very raw, of course, offensively, and then vets minimum. It's a lot of names that have come up. I'm excited though to see as well to see who the Knicks end up picking up with that, because it's the final spot essentially. It's the final spot of a guy who's going to be able to compete for minutes. And Cameron Payne last season was brought in, of course. Pushing towards the start of the season, Landry Shamet was brought in, Precious was brought back. So the Knicks did a good job of just stacking up talent at the end of their bench. And now they've done the same thing, of course. Jordan Clarkson and Yabusele on a team that already went to the Eastern Conference Finals. That was 2 games away. So I'm liking what Leon is doing. You guys definitely got to let me know down in the comment section below who you personally would like to see the Knicks use that final roster spot for the vets minimum, which is 2.29 million. It would have been absolutely pretty much like impossible to do that without going into the second apron if it wasn't for Yabusele, which is cool. It does seem like this offseason, well, at least to this point in the offseason, that the Knicks are reaching with a name like Marcus Smart. There's been no reports of him being bought out. It's just kind of like speculating. And then Bradley Beal, there are reports that he's expected to get bought out. And then Ben Simmons, the Knicks do have interest in him. Just seems like the biggest names necessarily don't have to be the move, considering the fact of the Knicks don't have a lot of shooting, especially off of their bench. I mean, you take a look at who's coming off the bench. Like, we know Deuce McBride can shoot it. That's it, though. Like, Jordan Clarkson, his efficiency's always been his problem. He can create his own shot, but 40.8% from the field. And then from 3, he was at 36.2, which is about league average. It's nothing crazy. I'm sure his percentages will go up playing with the Knicks because he's got more talent around him. And then you've also got, outside of those guys, like Mitch isn't stretching the floor. Josh Hart, if he comes off the bench, maybe Mitch will start next to Cat. Who really knows? Yabusele can shoot the ball. Last season, he was about 4 attempts a game and 38%, which is very, very good. So, yeah, just to have Shamet, someone you can bring in who can get hot from 3, that can also defend, would be very, very valuable. I would love to have Shamet back. It's just going to come down to how long do the Knicks want to wait this out. Once some guys start coming off the board, if Shamet is the final guy at the end of your roster, I don't think you can go wrong with that. Because, like, Chris Paul is probably going to go out west where his family is and he's from there. Like, Cam Thomas, like, Jonathan Kuminga, those guys are just not really in our price range. So we're talking about probably, like, Ben Simmons, Bradley Beal, Marcus Smart, if he does get bought out. Those are the guys that Knicks, I'm sure, are going to go after. And if they don't get one of them, then Landry Shamet, why not just bring him back? That would be beautiful because you don't need another point guard. You've got Tyler Kolek. Of course, you got Deuce McBride, Jalen Brunson. Like, those are fine. Shooting guard Clarkson. You got Mikal Bridges. Deuce can also play the 2. So a lot of these guys can play combo guards, but Shamet can give you minutes at the 3 and the 2, which would be great. So, yeah, right now I'd put Shamet probably like towards the top of my list. I'd only put a few guys ahead of him. But also I'll give him the advantage because he was already here. And it's always good to bring guys back and to have essentially the same team and just to keep building up that chemistry and that camaraderie. But yeah, that's going to be the video today. There really hasn't been much Knicks news the past couple of days. But once the Summer League kicks off Friday night, we'll have a lot to talk about because we can break down the film, give you guys my live reaction and things like that. And I'm excited to see Lacombe Dadier, Tyler Kolek, Errol Porty, Kevin McCullough, James Najee, Mohamed Diawara, all these guys, even Dink Pate. I'm excited to see them compete and work, and hopefully the Knicks can win the Summer League championship.